Listener discretion is advised. Hello and welcome to True Crime, the podcast that helps you find new, emerging, and undiscovered true crime podcasts. I'm Greg, the host and curator of True Crime. Today's episode is from That's So Fucked Up. That's So Fucked Up is a true crime podcast primarily about cults, but also murder and other generally awful things. And it's kind of fun to say. If you like today's episode, make sure to check out the episode description for links to subscribe. All right, let's get this show started.
Begin.
So it's a phenomenon that happens when a disordered bond or intimacy is created through violence. And this is a direct quote, a homicidal bromance is formed from each killing.
I'm sorry, a psychologist said that?
That's what I read.
Is bromance like a
homicidal bromance? So essentially every time they kill together, it deepens this weird codependent, like close relationship they have.
That is so fucked up. It's fucked up. So fucked up. It is just so damn fucked up. That's fucked up.
So the teen spree, it makes it sound more fun than it is.
No, it's not like teen spirit.
It doesn't smell like teen spirit.
No, it's teen spree murder.
I feel like we usually kind of avoid this kind of gun violence topic. It's so, just happening constantly here in the United States.
I agree.
But we can't pretend that it's not happening. So we did want to just, bring some awareness to some of the psychology behind why this seems to be such a mass epidemic, at least in our culture in the United States. But I believe our story today takes place in Canada, right?
It does take place in Canada. Yeah, but it's still the same thing. I mean, there's still all the same psychological, and like a big part of it, I think, is in general society not supporting people to an extent when they need the help that could maybe stop them from doing these things.
So today's going to be a really light episode, you guys. Welcome back to the podcast. That's So Fucked Up, podcast about cults, murder, and other generally fucked up stuff. We're your hosts. I'm Ashley Richards.
And I'm Fallon Morey.
And you've got a pretty bummer story for me today that I've been
avoiding,
trying to put off hearing from you for a while.
But I feel like once I tell it, we can go past it. But the victims in the story are all actually like really amazing people. And so I think it's nice to be able to talk about how great they were. And it's sad what happened to them. But it's also important to understand, like you said, like there are things that maybe could prevent some of this. And, we'll get through it.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, so it's probably going to be a little bit of a touchy subject, but I'm going to try to stay away from talking about gratuitous violence here and really going into gory details because I don't think we need that. We'll just cover what happened.
No, we don't.
Yeah. So this happened in 2019. As a scene setter, in an early morning in July of 2019, a truck driver identified that there were two bodies laying in a ditch off of a highway in British Columbia. He stopped his truck and he called the police. Later, it's discovered that these two bodies belonged to a young couple who were on a road trip. And then just 4 days later and 300 miles away, Canadian police were called to the scene of another crime where they found the body of an older man who had also been killed in a similar fashion. And even though these scenes were really far away from each other, they were actually more connected than people originally realized and would kick off a weeks-long manhunt through British Columbia, Canada.
Oh, interesting. Okay, actually, I have no idea about this story.
Yeah, so it's interesting because there was a manhunt and there were so many missed connections at first, and we're going to get into that. But we're going to start with our couple. So Lucas Robertson Fowler and China Noel Deese, they were 23 and 24 respectively. They met while backpacking in Croatia in 2017. They both loved adventure and they loved being outdoors. China was actually working in a hostel in Croatia. She was from America, and they immediately hit it off. They met each other's families. Their families loved each other. Lucas was the youngest of 4 children. He loved adventure, the outdoors, riding dirt bikes, and camping. So good old outdoorsy kind of guy. And China enjoyed many of the same things. Both of them had 3 siblings, so they were close with their families. Lucas had studied mechanics in high school, and he got a job as a rancher in British Columbia. And so he invited China out to British Columbia, and the two of them were going to meet on the ranch and then take a road trip northward to Alaska, kind of like a little lover's trip.
I like that we're hearing about the victims because, I mean, we do our best, but sometimes we don't always get in a ton of information about the victims. So it's nice in the story that we are.
Yeah, I totally agree. They were just this young couple in love. Lucas was from Australia, so they weren't even from the same continent, and yet they were still just making love work across the world. So China flew out to British Columbia to meet up with Lucas at the ranch, and they spent a week there. And then they headed out on a road trip to North Alaska, because I guess British Columbia is like south of Alaska. So you just kind of drive upward.
Oh, that sounds like a dope road trip, dude.
And guess what? They were traveling in a Chevrolet GMC van that Lucas had specially fixed up just for their road trip. So he made them a little like road trip van, which is adorable.
I had an Australian boyfriend who I had a road trip minivan with.
What?
And we drove to Mexico.
Are you serious?
Yeah. He was a dick, though. This guy sounds really nice. My Australian boyfriend was like not that cool.
So all's going well on their trip as they head northward. There's actually this really cute but kind of heartbreaking picture of them. It was captured at a gas station in a town in British Columbia. They're seen on video embracing in a hug, but this is actually the last imagery of them alive. They're just like filling up with gas and hugging. A day later, they run into some trouble with their van and they pull off to the side of the road. Some tourists stop by and see that they're sort of fixing up the van that had broken down. One of the people that stopped to check on them was an older couple, and the man was pretty good with cars, and he checked in and said, oh, they seem happy, they're smiling, they're having a picnic out by the road. And Lucas was able to answer all the car questions this guy asked him. So he's like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing, like he's got this, they're gonna be fine. So they are on the side of the road, they're fixing their car, and a road maintenance worker the same night is driving by around that area, and later she reported that she saw the van and she saw this couple in the road talking to a bearded man. And she said, like, there's something about it unsettled her, but she didn't see anything incredibly dangerous happening. So she went on her way and went home. The next day at like 6 a.m, a truck driver in the area sees 2 bodies that are laying in a ditch near the disabled van. He checks on them and notes that the bodies are already cold. Before 7 a.m. on the same day, the maintenance worker that saw the couple asks a coworker who's on duty to go check the scene. She's like, something about that was really weird. Somebody should go check on them. Her coworker goes to the scene and finds the truck driver directing traffic around the 2 people. And he's like visibly upset and he's freaked out because there's 2 dead bodies in the road. And they realize that the bodies are face down and it's clearly 2 people who are deceased. They're about 10 feet away from the van and each other. They call the RCMP, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. It's a mouthful. From now on, I'm going to call them the RCMP.
Don't they ride horses?
I think they do, but I think they probably also don't all ride horses.
Not strictly.
Not strictly horses. So one of the people from the day before that had checked on them when they were fixing their van comes by because he was worried about them, and they turn him around and they're like, there's an issue here. You got to go back. When the police arrive, they find that the back window of the van is shattered. The door is open. They find 5 used gun shell cases and note that both bodies have gun exit wounds on them. So it looks like they have unfortunately been shot. And they find footprints leading away from the scene. They find China's cell phone and her credit cards, but they don't find Lucas's phone or anything similar. And then they positively identify the bodies of China Deese and Lucas Fowler and inform the family and the public about 2 days later.
And how old were they?
23 and 24.
Oh,
I know.
Okay, I didn't know this was going to be teenagers on the loose. I guess I just always assumed that if teenagers are shooting people, it's at a school.
No, it's...
So I just assumed this was a school shooting.
I know. Unfortunately, because it's so prevalent. Isn't it sad about society when you hear teenagers shooting and you're like, oh, school?
Oh, they probably shot several other students at their place of school, right? Yeah, no, it's just, that's what you assume.
Yeah, this story is crazy. So let's go back a day from when China and Lucas are identified. A man named Leonard Dick leaves home in Vancouver, and he's in a gray Toyota RAV4. I'm telling you that because it will be important. He's going on a solo trip to see grizzlies in northern British Columbia. And I guess he does this pretty often. He tells his wife, Helen, that he plans to return by the 24th of July. He pretty often would go out just to like take in nature. He'd drive his RAV4 to like a campground. He would watch animals, and then he would go home. It was just like his happy place.
Okay, isn't that crazy though? Because it sounds like he's going to be a victim, that he was going to do this very dangerous thing.
Watch grizzly bears.
Yeah, grizzly bears are... Did you see Grizzly Man?
No.
God damn. We should have a shirt that says, "Did you see ... God damn it, Fallon."
Oh my God. Add it to the merch store. I will buy one for everyone in my family.
Well, I don't want to spoil Grizzly Bear for you. It is like a 20-year-old documentary. It's called Grizzly Man, actually. But this guy, he goes and essentially lives with grizzly bears a bunch. And then he takes his girlfriend to live with him and the grizzly bears. And then they both get killed.
By the grizzlies.
Yeah. So the point is, don't fuck with grizzly bears. And it's just crazy that this guy was kind of going to do that, like a little bit, at least, be in their vicinity.
I think he was very respectful of nature because he was a pretty accomplished outdoorsman, and he had a master's and a PhD in botany, and he was a college lecturer. So he would like go on these trips, and sometimes he would take students on trips to see things in nature. So I'm guessing that he was pretty like respectful of the natural world.
He was bear aware.
He was...
Sorry, just like, I have to interject jokes into really serious episodes.
Some of the ones that come out are like, I was not expecting bear aware, but I want that to be on a t-shirt, like a bear with binoculars, or like be bear aware. He was known to have kind of like a grizzly bear, a tough exterior, but all his students loved that he had this incredible passion and curiosity for the world. He was said to have a bushy white beard, kind eyes, and a mischievous smile. So he was sort of like Santa Claus.
I was literally going to say, are you describing this dude or Santa?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
So he texts his wife like once a day. She's used to him doing this, says, "Hey, I'm fine. I love you." He texts his wife on July 18th, and that turns out to be the last one from him. On July 19th, which is now 2 days after Lucas and China's identity has been released to their parents, 2 days later, a road worker passing near the scene calls the RCMP to report there's a body in a pullout on Highway 37 near Dease Lake in British Columbia, which is about 300 miles away from Lucas and China's crime scene.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's far.
Yeah. It's far away, which is why nobody thought they could be connected at first, right? They didn't think like this is the same thing.
Do you know how many kilometers that is?
No, damn it, because I converted all of them from kilometers to miles and I did not leave the kilometers in.
I mean, you just could have, because like maybe our Canadians.
Or maybe you could look it up and tell me.
I mean, aren't we the only ones who use miles?
Yes.
Like a bunch of assholes.
Like a bunch of assholes. I've seen jokes where it'll be like, okay, the distance between these two is about, 3.5 small pigs. And people are like, Americans will do anything to avoid using the metric system.
True. I don't know why.
So the police find that the body there is a man in his 50s to 60s. He has gray hair and a heavy build. It's clear that he was killed by a gunshot, similar to China and Lucas. His truck is also missing, and the police find that the wounds are made by bullets from something called an SKS rifle. A few hours later, the police hear that 2 highway workers near there saw a garbage can fire the previous night and think, well, could that be related? And witnesses stop by who are going by the murder scene, tell the police that in a bathroom nearby, there's just walls in a public restroom nearby. The walls are covered in blood, the walls and the floor.
Whoa.
So
Fuck.
about the same time that Leonard's body is discovered in another location about a mile north, spoiler alert, the body is Leonard's body.
Yeah, I figured.
They find a burning truck in a pullout about a mile north of his body. The RCMP are called to the scene, and they find that the truck that's burning is not Leonard's, but it's a gray and red Dodge pickup truck. This truck was being driven by 2 teenagers named Cam McLeod and Briar Schmigelski, who are 19 and 18 years old, and it's registered to McLeod's parents.
Briar Schmigelski?
Yes, Briar Schmigelski.
Okay.
But at the time, this wasn't like hey, these kids are up to something. They were like, we just found a body and we found another burned out truck a mile north. Like, these kids.
Are the kids okay?
Yeah, exactly. So,
right.
And then they call around and the family is like, wait, the last time we talked to them was like around the 17th. It's been 2 days. Like, we don't know where they are. And so the police released the photos of the 2 teens who are now being declared as missing.
Whoa. Plot twist.
Right. So things are about to get super interesting. Let's rewind. On July 12th, so around the same time that Lucas and China take off for their trip, and at the same time Leonard is about to take off for his trip, McLeod and Schmigelski leave their home. I want to call them something else.
Schmigelski? I cannot. No,
Okay.
Just call them by their first names. What are their first names
I
again?
didn't write them all through the document because normally we call the perpetrators by their last names. Okay. Cam and Briar leave their home in Fort Alberni, British Columbia, and they tell their families they're going to look for work in the Yukon. They're driving in McLeod's parents' gray and red Dodge truck that had a camper on it. So this is the truck that would later be found burning, which is why they think the teens are missing. Both of the kids had worked at Walmart and they wanted to find better paying jobs. The town they're from is really small, like 35,000 people. And it was a town that had a reputation for crime. It was part of a depressed forestry economy and also known for some issues with racism.
You cannot even tell me that a town sucks now after we just talked about Skidmore, Missouri recently. Like, you just can't.
So for those who haven't heard, Ash and I just recorded an episode about a small town that is 400 people and puts my small town to shame with its issues.
Well, it was actually last week, so
Yeah.
They've heard. And I think they would agree that, sorry, Fallon, it's hard to beat.
The 2 had grown up together. They were friends since elementary school. Briar had lived with his grandmother for 2 years. He was apparently struggling after his parents' divorce. They used to spend time together shooting airsoft guns. They were gamers, and they liked to play shooter and survivalist computer games. The teens start to travel, and as they do, they stop at a Cabela's, and they purchase a Soviet SKS carbine semi-automatic rifle, along with 2 magazines and 20 rounds of ammunition, like you do. One of the teens, so Cam, was able to purchase this because he had a legal possession and ammunition license. So he's able to walk in and just buy this gun, and on they go.
So Canada is not super strict on their gun laws. No background check required.
I'm not sure. I have to look that up.
And what year was this?
2019.
It looks like you just have to have a firearms certificate.
Yeah, so I think the background check sort of happens up front. You do a background check, you have to provide references for them to call and check with, looking at a website, and then they issue you this firearms or ammunition license, and then you can purchase a weapon. So you sort of get vetted up front, I think.
Well, that's a lot better than what we're doing here.
Yes. But Cam, the one who purchased the weapon, his girlfriend contacts him as the 2 teens are driving and asks him why he left town without saying goodbye. And he says, seriously? Sorry, but I'm not coming back. So later, obviously, all of these things are pieced together later on. So what they start to realize looking back is that on the day that China and Lucas's bodies were found at around 3:25 a.m., the teens truck is seen making a stop at a gas station about 100 miles north of Lucas and China's disabled van. Later the same day, their truck is seen at a gas station where one of them buys a gas can. On the same day, so right after the murder of Lucas and China, Cam tells his parents that they are in the Yukon, which they're not. And the other, what's his name? Breyer tells his grandma that it wasn't really what we expected, but they never tell anyone where they're headed. They just are like, okay, we got where we're going. We're done. So the police start to piece together the evidence. They realize that the missing teens were also seen right like kind of in this vicinity of where Leonard died, and they're driving Leonard Dick's gray Toyota RAV4.
Oh, that's a bold move to drive your victim's car.
Yeah.
But I guess also, I mean, not to be like rating their criminal performance, but I guess burning their own car was pretty good distraction tactic.
So to summarize, they leave at the same time as Lucas and China. They kill Lucas and China. They keep heading north. They kill Leonard. They burn their own car. They steal Leonard's car. And then they call their families and essentially say, like, we're fine, we're here. And Cam tells his girlfriend, I'm not coming back. So that's...
And does she know what this means at that point?
No, she's just like, she kind of calls him and she's like, you left town and you didn't say goodbye. You didn't talk, nothing. And he's like, whatever, I'm not coming back. That's it. So soon, this is leading into a manhunt that's going to stretch across 4 Canadian provinces and last for 28 days to find these kids. Right after Leonard's...
Wait, how many days?
28 days.
Whoa.
Spanning 1,865 miles.
That's crazy. That has to be one of their record manhunts.
Yeah, it's a pretty intense manhunt in terms of, I guess. Oh, it is considered to be Canada's longest running and most far reaching manhunt to date.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't... I'm surprised that it was a couple of teenagers.
I know. And it doesn't sound like they were particularly organized. Like, it doesn't sound like they were like, okay, we're going to get in our van, buy a gun, and go hunt people. Like, I don't know if it's just sort of going to happen. So right after Leonard is found, on July 20th, police release a sketch of a bearded man, that road worker who had seen China and Lucas, who she had described talking to the couple in the road. And as it happens, Cam McLeod has a beard. So he is a bearded man.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
So he is a bearded man.
He is a bearded man. I'm just trying to catch everyone up.
Thank you.
The police still at this point, though, think the boys are just in danger and missing. So they speak to Cam's family. The family says, we're really concerned for the teen's safety. They told the police that the boys had quit their Walmart jobs and they were going to look for work. Police also speak to Breyer's grandmother, who says they kind of left on a sudden trip up north. He was apparently rejected by a girl and was upset. So, oh, poor baby.
Oh, no.
Time to go commit crimes. Again, a few days after Leonard's murder, the two are seen in Leonard's RAV4 in Saskatchewan. Police start to track movements because now they're thinking like, okay, something isn't matching up. Like, are these teens really missing? So the day after, the RCMP sends bulletins to Canadian law enforcement, and they're trying to limit the movement of these teens. Like, they're definitely becoming suspects at this point. But the teens had already reached Manitoba, Canada, and were able to get through a checkpoint before the police had alerted like all the provincial checkpoints to look for these guys. So they speak to their parents again. The parents tell them, well, the boys are experienced in the outdoors and they consider themselves survivalists. Breyer acknowledges that his son had a difficult upbringing due to his parents' divorce and that he was heavily influenced by YouTube and video games. No, I don't buy it. Let me blame, in case my son's done anything wrong, it's YouTube's fault, right?
YouTube did it. Yeah. Look, I know the argument between like, oh, does video games cause violence? I do think it's an interesting argument, but there are also plenty of people who play Grand Theft Auto and shit who never once go and actually physically hurt a person in real life.
No. My husband plays all sorts of video games where he's like aliens that are shooting guns, and my husband doesn't own a gun. We own no guns, and like he is the most relaxed and docile person ever. So there is not an automatic link there. I don't buy it. So a call from a witness suggests to the police that the two boys were involved in the murders. At this point, like, duh, they have them in a murdered man's car, tracking them through Canada.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
The witness's name is never released, so we don't know who actually called that tip in. The RCMP releases the sketch of the third victim, who at this point has still not been identified, and then Helen Dick recognizes her husband, Leonard, as the man in the sketch.
Oh, that's such a bummer way to find out.
Yeah.
Man.
The RCMP in northern Manitoba get a report of a vehicle fire in a remote location near the Fox Tree Cree Nation. And this is the RAV4, which belonged to Leonard Dick. It's been abandoned and set on fire.
Ugh.
Finally, at this point, Cam and Briar are considered suspects and are actually arrestable. So they start to...
If they can find
them. But they can put out public details and say, these guys are out there, they're armed and dangerous, they're suspects in 2 murders. We thought they were missing. They're not. They're bad guys.
In 3 murders, really?
3 murders. Sorry, yes, 3 murders. 2 murder scenes. I'm sorry. 3 murders. A lot of these facts would be released later, but the same type of ammo that killed Lucas in China was found near the teens' burned out truck. And so was the nozzle from the gas can that they were seen on video, I think, purchasing before they had committed their first murder. A SIM card from Cam's cell phone was also found just down a path near Leonard Dick's body. So they're not the greatest at cleaning up after their crime scenes. Wait, at the garbage can fire they set later, the one that somebody had reported to the police, they found Cam's Walmart ID badge.
Okay, that's bad. But they were able to evade capture for a really long time.
Yeah, so it seems a long time, but about 4 days after Leonard is identified, warrants are put out for them officially for questioning in the murders of Leonard, Lucas, and China, and that's when they begin this kind of like massive manhunt. Lucas's father from Australia is actually a police chief inspector in the New South Wales police force, so he fights crime and hunts criminals for a living. He comes out from Australia to Canada because he wants to bring his son's body home. He gets there and he talks to the media and he says that the deaths of Lucas and China were such a tragic end to a love story of an inseparable couple, which breaks my heart.
Oh, yeah.
So at this point, they interview there. I think there's like regular, just a media circus happening. According to Briar's dad, his son was in serious pain emotionally before he left, and he suspects that his son is not going to return alive. In contrast, Cam's father states that his son was kind and considerate, and he just wanted to get to the bottom of this. Somebody's been fooled. Ugh.
You got punked, son.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dad. Yeah.
In the week and a half that follows, the manhunt intensifies. Military forces are brought in to help the manhunt, including, this is bananas, tracker dogs, a drone, a helicopter, armored vehicles, and officers who have specialized wilderness training. So like the full force of the Canadian police and military hunting for these teenagers.
Wow.
They enlist the help of a man named Billy Beardy, who is a Cree trapper and a construction supervisor who is part of the Cree, which are an indigenous people living in central Canada. He is very familiar with that area of the land, and they enlist him to help in the manhunt. His help actually provides a turning point in the search, because as the search parties are looking around a river called the Nelson River, which is something that the teens would probably have to cross to continue on their journey, Beardy sees a raven flying by, and he knows that it's the only reason, or one of the only reasons a raven would be there would be that it would be scavenging off remains. So they could be of an animal, but they could also be of people, depending on what happened to the kids. So around 2 weeks later,
Whoa. Okay, if you tell me that they're found dead in the wilderness, it's gonna be a crazy story. Is that coming?
hold the brakes, because
Oh my God.
So August 1st, 2 weeks after around the murders happen, first they find Cam's wallet and backpack with clothing and ammo. It's been left behind. So the authorities start searching that same river again. They find a damaged boat and they bring in divers. But on August 7th, the bodies of Cam and Briar are found in a dense, bushy area near the Nelson River in northern Manitoba. Basically where the Cree member, Billy, had told them to look. Crazy.
Whoa.
Right. They're found about 5 miles from where they found Leonard's burned out truck, and they're found with a lot of unused ammunition. So they basically think that they wanted to keep traveling and they were trying to like evade, but they got stuck because there's a river. But they might have kept doing this if they had not been pinned in. Like, they were ready to keep doing this. They found 2 SKS rifles where the bodies are. So they had 2 guns and tons of ammunition. One of them had been purchased on their trip, but then they realized later that one was probably purchased by them before they ever left their hometown. So they left home preparing to like kill people.
Dude. Oh my God. I've been avoiding you telling this story for a while because I literally just thought it was going to be kids shot up a school and then it was a giant bummer.
Yeah.
But this is
crazy.
Also a giant bummer, but like, what the fuck?
Right. Like, how did 2 teenage boys get away with like cause this enormous manhunt to happen?
And then in the end, they caused their own demise as well.
Yeah, the RCMP thinks that Cam shot Briar and then himself in a suicide pact.
Oh, okay. So maybe they just got to the point where they were like, dude, we're not going to get away from this.
No, and they think that the boys were actually dead for several days when they were found. And they were found on August 7th. So that means that they only made it for like 2 weeks of running. And then they just kind of were like, oh, a river. We're stuck. That's it. And they just gave up.
Okay, well, I'll shoot you.
You shoot me.
You shoot me.
Later on, authorities find that they had stolen Leonard's digital camera. And then so later on, authorities find several videos that the teens had recorded on the camera. On the videos, they admit to the 3 killings, but they express absolutely no regret for them. They also said on the videos they wanted to kill more people, but they thought that they might be dead within a week.
Okay, well, good.
Yeah. If your plan is just to like run around and kill people, then that's probably for the best.
Sorry, fuck these little psychopaths. Yeah. I'm glad that went down perfectly. Them dying in the woods together. That's what they deserved.
They said that their plan was to hike to Hudson Bay, hijack a boat, and then go to either Europe or Africa. Now, this is from the middle to western part of Canada, and I don't know if they were good students of geography, that will take you a very long time in a rowboat because it's literally across the fucking world.
Stop it. They were going to escape in a fucking rowboat.
A boat.
To go to Africa.
They just said we're going to hijack a boat and go to Europe or Africa.
Okay. I doubt it was. I bet they were planning on like hijacking a yacht or something. But also, do these kids know how to fucking navigate the seas? That's ridiculous.
Well, especially because when you consider that one video they made said they had reached a large fast moving river, so they may have to commit suicide. So if they were going to commit suicide because they reached a river, it is very doubtful they would have made it across 3 oceans in a rowboat.
Right. They're like, a river? yeah, you know what? That's not happening. Did you know that the fucking pioneers wouldn't have, gotten to the West if they didn't risk themselves and their entire fucking families going across rivers like punk bitches?
But you know what? I'm kind of glad that they were like, oh, we give up because we don't need them killing any more people.
Oh, for sure. No, I'm very glad about that too.
They made a video where they said that they had shaved in preparation for their deaths. Bunch of weirdos. But they were sad about dying because they still wanted to kill more people. And they described in their last will and testament on video that they want it to be cremated. None of the videos had a timestamp on them, so they don't know if they made all of them right after they killed Leonard or right before they died. They're not timestamped at all. And it was found out later that they almost killed a fourth victim. There was a photographer from Alaska who stopped for a nap in a pullout. He had been driving for like 15 hours. He stopped on the Alaska highway. It was about 500 miles from where Lucas and China were found, but it would have been where they were passing by. So dude climbs into the back seat for his nap, takes his pants off, and then he sees a pickup truck pull over ahead of him. A tall, skinny male passenger gets out with a long gun and heads toward the side of the road and the tree line and starts coming toward him in a tactical or hunting stance. That's how he describes it. The pickup truck also turns around and starts coming toward where he is and blocks his exit. He felt like he was being ambushed, so he jumps back in the driver's seat, gets away, but didn't get a look at the driver. However, it's likely his instincts saved his life. Whew.
Whoa. Dude, this story is
bananas. So the worst thing is that no true motive was ever discovered, but there is some insight into their behavior. The two were childhood friends and had bonded over violence and killing, not just in their games, but they used to play like violent hunting games, and they used to spend a lot of time outdoors. The teens would often display racist and violent rants on social media. A former 7th grade classmate of Breyer said there were times he would tell me and my friends that he wanted to kill us and then himself, which is scary. Like, fucking understatement. That's real scary.
I'm just like, hey, what's up, Fallon? Kind of want to kill you. Like, that's not comforting in a friendship.
And I'd be like, welcome to the very last episode of That's So Fucked Up, a podcast about cults, murder, and other generally fucked up stuff. I'll be moving.
Everybody run. She's crazy.
The same classmate also said that this was when they were in 7th grade. This kid was saying this. Like, when he was 13, he was already saying this stuff. He said that one of my friends also commented that Breyer said he wanted to kill his whole family.
Dude, are these kids just born evil? Kind of thing.
I don't know. A criminologist said that they may have been driven by anger, but it could also be an underlying paraphilia of some sort or a psychological defect. So potentially born with some sort of instinct. He also noted that this was an example of a team killer. So one of the cases he notes that you've covered is Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka, the Barbie and Ken killers. He says that there were 120 similar cases in the US and 3 in Canada. So it's a phenomenon that happens when a disordered bond or intimacy is created through violence. And basically, this is a direct quote, a homicidal bromance is formed from each killing.
I'm sorry, a psychologist said that?
That's what I read.
Is bromance like a
homicidal bromance? So essentially, every time they kill together, it deepens this weird codependent, close relationship they have because they're united through their violent act, and it makes them closer bonded, but it also makes them more violent as they go.
Homicidal bromance, band name called it.
I mean, ultimately, these teens' behavior was blamed on a lot of things, but it appears that so many people, just like the cases you hear in the US, when people say, oh yeah, I thought it was weird that the guy was posting rants where he was holding a gun, but I was really surprised when he went and shot people at his college, and then you find out that there's a long history. I mean, one of them was telling his classmates, he wanted to kill them when he was 13. And they were both posting like racist, violent rants on social media long before they ever took off on their trip. So all that was just sort of ignored.
Right. Where is the intervention in these cases? Where is somebody saying, that's alarming. Let's
Well, and the one kid was, I guess, sent to live with his grandmother because his parents' divorce was really upsetting. But the kid's dad was still in his life and was like, oh, yeah, I knew my son was in a ton of pain when he left. So I'm not surprised if he doesn't come home. Like, if you knew he was in that much pain, why did you just go, okay, go live with grandma? Like, maybe he could have gotten help. We don't know. So there is something sweet that I found that a trucker named Ed Grennan in Canada, who had lost his own daughter at a young age, found the spot where Lucas and China had died, and he put up a memorial for them where people can visit and leave messages and flowers. So
That's
nice. He just went and did that on his own. It's interesting because I found a map of this, and this manhunt was enormous. Like, it goes all the way from the sort of western edge of Canada and British Columbia, and Manitoba is 4 provinces over. So they were found halfway across Canada, almost. This enormous expanse covered by these kids.
I wonder how much of that they were tromping through the woods for.
I wonder if they just were like, ooh, we're adventurers now. We're just killing people and
We've
running.
watched so many episodes of Bear Grylls. We definitely know how to fucking go survive there.
So unfortunately, maybe if somebody had intervened, it probably could have been prevented. But, ultimately, all of the people who were killed really love to be outdoors, and it's sad that they were just kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like, they weren't targeted specifically. They just literally stopped on the wrong road, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah. So I guess that's why I've always stayed away from these teen gun violence stories. I guess I just struggle to find what do we learn from that other than there should be intervention when kids are showing violent tendencies and
right. I think an important message, I guess as a parent, pay attention to what your kids are watching. And as a friend or a classmate, it's not your responsibility to stop anyone. But if you see something weird, we've talked about so many other times, if that weird instinct hits and you're like, okay, I just saw the scariest Facebook post ever by a classmate in my class, tell somebody.
yeah.
And it might be nothing, but it might be something. And if you, I guess, the thing I always notice is you hear so much about people that are starting to fall off the rails, but they don't have a resource to get the care they need. And I could go on for hours about how hard it is to get mental health care, especially in the US, because it's prohibitively expensive. If you're not in insurance, it can be really hard. And there are places that you can go that offer care, but sometimes it's really hard if you go through a place online to get a consistent therapist you can establish a bond with. So,
you know what you can get here though pretty easily?
Guns.
Sick.
Guns.
It's awesome.
But not mental health care. And I think that's the thing that's really
right. And we're obviously referring to United States, the gun-loving capital of the world. Man, we love a mass shooting here. I'm not going to get more political than that.
No.
But come on, guys. It's fucking ridiculous. You don't need assault rifles if you're just a regular citizen.
Yeah.
I'm not saying take all the guns away, okay? Whoa, I'm not being extreme. Just maybe civilians don't need assault rifles because statistically, when an assault rifle is involved in a mass shooting, 6 times more people die.
Right.
But I'm not going to be political.
Yeah. It's, I'm trying to keep my words measured because I don't want to be political, but I'm always, I like you, struggle with just reporting about random crime because I just feel like I don't want to just talk about somebody's worst day of their life, right? These were important people to someone and they didn't deserve to go like this, but it was a topic that came up a long time ago and we wanted to get through it. So we did.
Sometimes we'll pick a topic in a certain mood and then will be like, "Ugh, I don't feel like doing that." But we have such amazing researchers who do such amazing research that we're not just going to let go to waste.
Yes,
So
absolutely. And we appreciate our research partners who help us so much. And I've been a researcher and I still research, and it's hard work. So we wanted to make sure. But I think you and I have both agreed that we both feel strongly about ethical true crime and how we can turn the podcast to that. So,
and speaking of our researchers, you guys, shout out to Toni and Keisha and Liz and Peggy and Lindsay, who have been working their titties off. And of course, for this tight ass content that you get, you guys don't have to listen to us.
She's talking about
like
me
heavily
on my first episodes.
I mean, me too. I mean, you just don't have to listen to us heavily breathing into the microphone or, hawking loogies or that kind of thing. And that's thanks to our editors. Also, sometimes you get a 14-minute conversation about pulp orange juice versus non-pulp. You get that sweetened down to a nice tight little 2-minute funny segment. They do a lot of work, you guys. They make us sound great. So
yes.
Shout out to Gatrice and Ryan and River, Dallas, Ophelia, Tina. Oh my God.
If podcasters have a filter, the editors are our filter for sure. The way
Thanks,
that
you guys.
photographers have them. Yes, for sure.
Thanks for making us sound less like
us.
Assholes. Occasionally when we do. We're not perfect. God. Neither are you guys. Jeez. But you're pretty darn close. We love you guys.
We do.
We appreciate you. Please do the things, give us a rating and a review if you're digging what you're hearing. If you're not, then just fucking move on and don't leave a review. Like, God.
And come play with us. Check out tsfuthepodcast.com. Click play with us. Join our Discord. Check out our bingos when you listen to our episodes. Super fun to play along, even if we forget.
Patreon.com/TSFU. You want all these episodes ad-free, baby? Boom. Patreon. You want to learn about the Bible with me? Boom. Patreon.
I want to learn about the Bible with you.
Do you love the Bible?
I do. I love the Bible with you.
Oh my God. That's a crazy book, you guys. I don't know if you've checked it out, but it is shenanigans. Do you want access to over 130 episodes that aren't on the regular feed? Yes, please. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
You guys, hit it up. $5. Patreon. Patreon.com/TSFU. Stickers. Shout out.
I love my stickers.
Keychain.
And at a higher level, a t-shirt and a mug.
And totes and oh my God, so much. All right, you guys. Thanks so much for listening.
I'd like to interject and say thanks for listening.
Yes. And Fallon pushed her glasses up as she said that. Aw. And now she's going to go play Dungeons and Dragons.
Which is fucking cool. You don't even know.
It's super cool. I'm jealous. I think it sounds fun. I would play with you.
If you lived close, I think you would have a good time.
No, I think I would. I would dress up like an elf and shit.
You'd make a great elf.
Oh, all right. Well, one day. All right, guys. Hope you have a great Friday if you're listening to this on the day that it comes out. Hope you're having a great Tuesday if you're a patron and listening to this 3 days before the Friday that it came out on the regular feed. And if you're listening to it on another day, then I hope you're having a great day. We love you.
We love you.
Air hugs. I'm being so weird. I have to go. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bum 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 bum. That's fucked up. I'm so fucked up. Can't you see? It's just really fucked. That's fucked up.
Thanks again for listening to True Crime by Indie Drop-In Network. If you would like to nominate a true crime podcast to be featured, just send me a tweet at Indie Drop-In. I'd also love to hear if one of our featured podcasts is now your favorite show. Indie Drop-In survives off ad revenue and listener donations. If you would like to contribute, please consider buying me a coffee. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/Indie Drop-In. If you look at the very bottom of the episode description, I put a link in there to make it really easy. Indie Drop-In has many other shows that you also might like. Just go to indiedropin.com. All right, see you next week.